There was not much movement in the top 10 rankings this week across all different polls because most of the teams had pretty solid weeks. But we will still run through our top 10 and the biggest movers in our top 25. The full rankings can be found on our Twitter at BashBrosBall or later on in the YouTube video. I think we should go rapid fire for the first few teams because the top 6 all stayed the same in our polls, and in a lot of rankings that was the case. The only notable events dealing with those top of the rankings is, of course, in the form of Tennessee and Oregon State, where the race for that number 1 spot is as close as it has been the entire year, pretty much. Very close, with many national polls actually having Oregon State jump Tennessee, which I think is a little bit too early, since they both have one series loss this entire year, and I think recency bias has gotten a hold of a few people and swayed their opinions, but I still have Tennessee number 1. You have to look at their overall resume, and I think it still outclasses what Oregon State has been able to put together, even though they're very hot right now.
Yeah, like you said, definitely some recency bias from some voters out there, that or they're just trying to clickbait some viewers and readers, but both teams with one series lost on the year. But if you look at the resume, I mean, Tennessee has fewer losses, more wins, and they have more quality wins than Oregon State at this moment. So although the gap closed, I do think it's pretty clear at this point that Tennessee is still the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, and that's where we're leaving them for at least the time being. I feel like if they lose another series, there might be a little bit more room for Oregon State to move up there, but right now Tennessee still has the best resume, like you said. And after that, in the number 3 spot, pretty much consensus across the nation is Oklahoma State. They showed once again that they win series and they're the best team in the Big 12 at the moment.
Yeah, yep, similar story for both these 3 and 4 teams here. Oklahoma State been consistent, like you said, and the same goes for Arkansas. Haven't seen them firing on all cylinders yet, but they consistently are winning series and still come out on top.
Yeah, and they're winning series against ranked teams, so staying in that number 4 spot was definitely a necessity, even though I believe they lost their midweek. But after that, again, back-to-back ACC teams like we had last week with Virginia Tech at 5 and Miami at 6. They both win their weekend series, so not much else to say there. They stay in their spots just like every other team we have in the top 6.
Yeah, just both looking like the top 2 teams in the ACC at the moment. Louisville and Notre Dame certainly creeping up, trying to give them a run for their money, but at this time, it's Virginia Tech and Miami as the top 2 teams in that conference.
Yeah, and then at 7 is Texas, who moved up 2 spots. We are, I guess, high on Texas. I don't know. I feel like they just have ended up here due to other events, but other polls have really killed Texas over the past few weeks. They bring them back into the rankings for some polls this past weekend, but previously they were dropping them like crazy. We didn't drop them that far just because of the teams around them were also not doing great and doing pretty similar things as Texas, but moving up 2 spots to number 7, staying in the top 10. I feel like they've shown that they're the best or the second best team in the Big 12, with the other few teams also being more inconsistent than Texas has been.
Yeah, like you said, some polls certainly punished them the last couple weeks when they weren't playing as well. We didn't punish them as much. And a lot of that comes down to just the fact, if you look at the next 10 teams or so below them, I don't know that there's many or any teams that you're picking to beat Texas in a 3-game series or to come out on top of them in a regional or anything. It's just hard to see. At the end of the day, Texas is talented, still has a pretty solid resume, and that's why they're staying up top for us.
Yeah, and then at number 8, also moving up 2 spots, is Stanford. They bounced back from a bad weekend against UW to sweep Cal, and so we thought that they deserved to jump up a few spots, especially because the next few teams didn't really play any games. So showing that they are able to sweep and have a great week is deserving a jump up of at least over those teams that didn't really show us anything.
Yeah, yep. No, it's definitely impressive to see them show some resiliency and sweep a Cal team who's still pretty decent. And like you said, they jumped Notre Dame and Gonzaga in the 9-10 spots who just didn't play this week pretty much. So it's hard to move up in the rankings when you don't play any games. Nothing against them, really. It's just other teams obviously did better.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really say much going for those number 9 and 10 spots just because they literally didn't play games. So they're there. But we can go on to our biggest movers. The biggest mover was UCLA, dropping 11 spots from 11 to 22. Horrible weekend. Now at RPI 63, so that is just awful to be at for a ranked team. You don't really see that unless you're in a bad conference. So for UCLA to be at that low, it's surprising and not a good sign.
Yeah, certainly trending downward right now, and only 2 weeks left in the regular season. They really need to turn it up. Although they're ranked in the top 25, that RPI is just so poor. It's just not a great weekend for them, and hopefully they find a way to bounce back from that.
Yeah, and then the next big dropper was Southern Miss, once again losing their weekend series for the second straight week. And they dropped 5 spots from 12 to 17. They're very close to not being ranked as well. If they don't win this next series, probably they're dropping out as well.
Yeah, 2 straight series losses. You're just hoping this doesn't become a long-term trend. 1 point looked like a potential top 5 team in the country with how dominant they were. But now they're slipping, and hopefully they're able to grab hold and get back on track.
Yeah, and then our one new entry into the top 25, that being Oklahoma being at the 25 spot, getting it from TCU, who dropped out from 20. So a little swap-a-roo where a Big 12 team comes in for another. TCU somehow has completely fallen apart, it seems like. They were on such a hot streak. We had them very, very high on our polls, just on the fringe of being like a top 10 team, and after 2 weeks, they're out of it, just like that.
Yeah, just crazy how much of a roller coaster they went through these past couple weeks. Yeah, like you said, they were climbing, and now they find themselves out. Not where you want to be, but they do have an opportunity to regain, and hopefully they're able to get back on track these last 2 weeks.
Definitely. Are there any other teams you want to mention rising up or falling down that we have?
I guess one more we could mention is LSU climbing up 4 spots. All of a sudden getting some good wins on that resume. They take 2 out of 3 from Alabama. This is one of those teams where they've been going up and down the whole year, but they're back on one of those upwards trends, and they got some good opportunities to build on that resume. They play Vandy to close the year, and if they stay hot, they're a team that could wind up a national seed after consistently finding themselves almost out of the rankings.
Yeah, they're a team that has been inconsistent, but now has started to turn that around a bit and show some consistency, and is definitely on more of an upward trend than they have shown previously. So LSU just on the fringe of being a top 10 team right now, and that's scary because they are definitely one of the most talented teams in the nation. Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed, we would really appreciate a like and subscribe for more weekly college baseball content.